So, talk about taking a bunch of ideas and combining them into one. Yesterday, we made a video talking about the Montreal Canadiens and the debate that you could say exists for what is their third-line center spot. Everybody knows that Nick Suzuki's going to be number 1, Kirby Dach is probably going to be number 2, but for number 3, we did discuss whether or not the existence and the prosperity of a guy like Oliver Kapanen put Christian Dvorak's spot in jeopardy. This was a conversation that I thought a lot of Canadiens fans in the comment section were engaging with well, and it kind of got a lot of people thinking, hey, Christian Dvorak wasn't really all too great in the first preseason game that he played, and I don't want to say that he has been, too amazing with the Montreal Canadiens in general. Throughout the past few years, he has been a part of the organization. You gotta remember, the only reason Dvorak is even on Montreal is because the Canadiens used some of the compensation they got in the Jesperi Kotkaniemi offer sheet to get him away from the Arizona Coyotes at the time. Now, in 2024-2025, you could say that his role and his spot is in jeopardy because this young new prospect from Finland is doing pretty well. With this in mind, though, I wanted to open the conversation even further to more teams that could be involved in some sort of a trade for a center and ask whether or not it would make sense for Christian Dvorak to get sent over there. Let's head over to an article published on HabsFanatics.com that includes a tweet from David Pagnotta. Let's take a look at this. Dennis Bernstein tweeted this out earlier in the week. The LA Kings are starting the preseason schedule with 4 positions at center still in flux. Jim Hiller, the LA Kings coach, has Akil Thomas, Trevor Lewis, and Alex Turcotte as a group on Saturday, and they've all played center. But who his pivot is to be determined. By the way, Trevor Lewis is 37 years old. I kind of had to do a double take there. I was like, yeah, wait, Lewis? He's still kicking it, eh? Good to see. David Pagnotta went out there and replied to this Bernstein tweet saying this: "It begins. Camps get underway, teams see what they have and don't have, and some teams deal with injuries, like Arthur Kaliyev, who is out for a few months, and start to explore outside options. Like Dennis Bernstein, I can see the Kings looking for a 4th-line center, unrelated to the Artur Kaliyev injury in the early goings here." Now, this doesn't necessarily align with the profile of Christian Dvorak in Montreal, but the article that we're looking at, Transaction, David Pagnotta hints at the Kings' interest and shares positive news for the Canadiens, asks the question as to whether or not Dvorak could fulfill that role. Now, pause before we dive into it. I get it. Pagnotta is saying 4th-line center could be for grabs here, and we had said in the video yesterday that if you wanted to just throw Dvorak on the 4th-line center spot in Montreal, it might not actually be too positive. And that's true. I still agree with that sentiment. I'd rather have Jake Evans than Christian Dvorak in a 4th-line center spot, mostly because I feel like you're kind of doing everybody a favor by keeping Evans there instead of demoting Dvorak, because, let's face it, if Christian Dvorak's spot at 3rd-line center is not going to be there, is he going to be okay with getting reduced to a 4th-line caliber center? Especially on a team like Montreal that's not even really supposed to be all too great right now? You could say it would be a little bit fishy for him to do that. In the LA Kings organization, though, not only is their center core, I would say, a bit better than what Montreal has right now, but the Kings are also expected to doing better in general. They had Pierre-Luc Dubois rotating around in that 4th-line center spot last year. And with the LA Kings' focus on kind of spreading the lines out more evenly, I don't think Christian Dvorak playing 4th-line center in LA would be as problematic for Christian Dvorak compared to Dvorak playing 4th-line center in Montreal. There is a very clear divide in talent when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens, and the roles are very defined as well. Not to say that the LA Kings don't have roles in their forward core, but if you have Dvorak playing 4th-line center in LA, I still do think there's a lot more opportunity for his game to still hold significant value in the LA system versus Montreal. And furthermore, if the LA Kings are intent on rolling 4 lines a little bit more equally, have them spread out the ice time, it could be pretty good, actually, for a guy like Dvorak to be playing against other teams' 4th lines and having, let's say, a young dude like Alex Turcotte or a grinder like Tanner Jeannot, who can also score goals, by the way, on his wings. The LA Kings center core right now goes as follows. You've got Kopitar, Byfield, Danault, and then you have a fourth line that's got 3 centers in Turcotte, Thomas, and Trevor Lewis. This is a pretty good team, especially at center, which is why I'm thinking that they'd be having it in their own best interests to get a guy like Dvorak, have an immediate fourth-line center guy who can actually be a middle six center guy, and roll 4 lines a lot more evenly. The Kings are a better team than Montreal right now. That's just how it is. So I think the upgrade for Dvorak would be seen as a good thing. Let's go back over on the article and read what it has to say. Knowing that Arthur Kaliyev is injured for a few months, that his name has been linked to the Canadiens numerous times, including last week, and that the LA Kings might make a trade for a player like Dvorak, do you think this would be an interesting move for the Habs? Now, I didn't see Arthur Kaliyev's name get linked to Montreal in any articles recently. If I did, then I probably would have made a few videos about it. A trade framework involving Kaliyev and Dvorak could likely appeal to Kent Hughes, especially if he doesn't have to retain salary in the deal. Dvorak, 28, scored 9 points in 30 games last season and earns $4.45 million a year till 2025. Kaliyev played 51 games and had 15 points last season and earns $825,000 a year until 2025. Now here's the thing, if you're sending Dvorak over to LA, you're probably going to want to retain salary on that. No team is going to accept a fourth-line center rolled player at $4.45 million. Like, unfortunately, that's just how it is. For Montreal, though, if you wanted to say that they could retain, let's just say max 50% salary, if they retain 50%, all of a sudden it makes it easier for the LA Kings to say, okay, yeah, we can get a pretty decently expensive $2.2 million fourth-line center, but he's a guy that in most other organizations would not be a fourth-line center. Even in Montreal, he's a third-line center there. So improving the quality of the team for a guy who's not going to break the bank for a long time because his contract expires next year, it actually does sound like an intriguing enough idea that the LA Kings might have interest in. Imagine having 2 former Montreal Canadiens two-way centers on your same center core in Dvorak and Danault. That's kind of funny. Surround them with Kopitar and Byfield as the 1 and 2 centers, and you have one of the best center cores in the entire NHL. I know we like to rag on Christian Dvorak, but there's a reason he's been a third-line center caliber player for the majority of his career. Even in the days of his Arizona Coyotes point production prosperity, he was still never really able to fully break out as a top 6 guy. Either way, though, having this player in the middle to bottom 6 is a pretty good move, and I think one that's a lot more suited for a team that's looking for bigger and better things in the short term, like LA, compared to Montreal, that could stand to use maybe another top pick if they don't end up making the playoffs this year. So if you're an LA Kings fan, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Christian Dvorak as a potential trade candidate? I'm not going to use the Arthur Kaliyev for Dvorak idea in the title or the thumbnail of this video. I just wanted to toss out Dvorak's name in the LA pool just to see what Kings fans have to say about this. If you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, how do you feel about this? I don't think I have to guess to understand what Canadiens fans are feeling, based off of the comment section of the yesterday video going over how Oliver Kapanen is this close to stealing the spot for third-line center from Dvorak. So if this is the kind of trade that you could see working out for both parties, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Kings and Christian Dvorak? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.